All right. Good morning, Doug. We're here with questions from members of the file. If you want to become a member of the file and ask Doug questions, go to crisisinvesting.com, sign up to our paid newsletter, and then you'll get access to the file. So, Doug, first question is I was listening to someone who was talking about how Canada no longer has any gold reserves, and that when the next crisis occurs, then most likely they would nationalize the gold mines. I could see that happening all over the world. What would that do to the investors in those mines?
Hmm.
Uh, and what do you think would happen to Canada's dollar and economy at that same time?
Well, Canada's in big trouble. I mean, I don't know how this fellow Carney wound up running Canada, but he's really only marginally better than Trudeau, which is not saying much. So I guess they're capable of almost anything. But the question is, what's going to happen to the gold mines in Canada? Will they be nationalized? No, I don't think so. Because these people that run the governments of the world have are really kind of stupid on a basic level, but I, I think they understand that when the government runs something, it becomes a loss maker. And because all of these governments, including the government of Canada, are bankrupt and desperate for income and tax productive enterprises so highly anyway, nationalizing gold mines would be counterproductive. Their their income might very well turn into losses. So just leave well enough alone and steal half of their income in the form of taxes every year and concern yourself with making trouble elsewhere. And I think this is true everywhere. I don't think anybody is going to nationalize any gold mines. They'll leave them with enough profit so that it's still worthwhile for managements to run the things. But
Hmm.
I mean, what do they think is going to happen if they steal something that they don't know what to do with, which they don't, because it's a technical business. That's my answer.
Hmm. I mean, it'd be more likely that they would do what the U.S. has been doing, where they basically print money and buy a stake in a company like MP Materials, and maybe that's what they do, or the U.S. is done with Intel, or I don't know.
More likely, yeah. Get uh Yeah, but of course, any place that they stick their noses into it, it's not like the US government is going to make wise decisions when they vote on the board or anything else. So look, there's nothing we can do about this. What do you do? What do you do about it? Well,
Yeah.
actually nothing. But I don't think they're going to nationalize the gold mines. Don't worry about that. Worry about Canada being turned into a police state, which is happening much more rapidly than it is in the US, and worrying about Canada's culture, uh, which I used to like. It was pretty mellow, being washed away, which it absolutely is with, I think the current number is about there's 40 million people in Canada, and the immigration is about 1.5 million per year currently from alien cultures. So that's going to change the nature of Canada too, totally. I mean, worry about that. I don't think they're going to nationalize the gold mines.
Okay. Let's see. Next question is, I'd love to hear your thoughts on Battle Bank's promissory note offering, the convertible to equity offering they have.
Yeah, I really should find out about that because I am a shareholder in Battle Bank. I put a fair amount of money in it when they were raising money for it. How long ago was that? Did you put money in that?
5 years ago,
Was it
seems
that
like.
long ago? That's way too long,
Four.
way too long. This, what is going on that they can't get a banking license and go into business? I mean, during the Biden administration, okay, maybe they kind of figured that Rick and Frank uh, were malefactors from their point of view. So, okay, they'd slow it down. But now, yeah, what's going on? What do you think?
Well, I did have a conversation with Frank Trotter mm, 2 months ago, and I really had a strong impression that they would be live by, I thought he said by next month, by in October. So the impression I got from Frank at the time was that it was imminent, that it was going to
Why
happen.
are they still raising money for this new security then? Why would that still be the case? Can't they raise it?
Well, it's probably still this, they're, I mean, they to get the thing off the ground because of the extra time that is, I mean, I don't know, but my guess would be because it's all taken way longer than they expected, and so to have sufficient cash on hand to market the thing and grow it, you can understand why they'd want to make sure they had enough on hand once they go into operations. They've had to basically pay for years of cash burn, that they didn't anticipate.
Well, and maybe there's something else too. It's that not that Rick and Frank aren't competent and it's not a good idea. It is a good idea, but maybe a lot of the people that would be natural bank clients are dislike the banking system so much that they're doing something else with their, maybe the banking system in general is on the slippery slope.
Well, that's certainly possible, but we all still have bank accounts, and I mean, all their old customers at Everbank, which they built into something really substantial, was I'm sure still have bank accounts,
Yeah.
and would be much happier to be with them than with Wells Fargo or Bank of America.
Yeah, that's true. And the inevitable is not necessarily the imminent. So in the meantime, in the between time, we do need conventional banks. So I've got to call Rick or Frank and see if I can parse this out.
Yeah, just get an update on it.
Yeah, but
Okay.
I'm concerned. There's reason to be concerned. And
Hmm.
wait a minute, questioner, Frank is reachable. He's a very affable fellow. I think he'll take a call from you as a concerned
Yes.
person asking the question.
Yes, he would, and I would think he would. And as part of your due diligence, especially in a private deal, it makes a lot of sense for you to always pursue, the talking your due diligence by talking to the company yourself and getting an impression of them rather than just making a choice based upon the offering documents.
Yes, and sending money off into the ether,
Right.
which, well, we're all guilty of under certain circumstances. But yeah, you're right.
Trying to pick up the phone first makes sense, so yeah. Okay. Says maybe this question has been asked before, but what if I'd like to move to Uruguay, but not just buy a house and deal with the sunk cost, but wanted to buy something like rental property, like an office of some sort, where it could actually pay for itself? Is this viable scheme, which makes sense in Uruguay nowadays?
Well, does it? I mean, we both bought Uruguayan property, and I bought some commercial property, and there's definitely a rule of law in Uruguay, and there's no reason why you shouldn't buy a rental property, a commercial rental property, really. I don't know what the return on an asset might be in Montevideo or Punta or elsewhere. I mean, I'm not following it right now. Are you?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't answer specifically, and obviously it depends upon, it's hard to gauge the markets. I mean, real estate's all about the deal, right? Whether or not it works. So, but I can say that there is a file member who came down here first 2 years ago, and he's building a building in Punta, and I think he's already sold all of his units in it.
Hmm.
Pre-construction, they sold all of his units in it.
Well, and looking at it from a 30,000 foot view, uh, there's every reason in the world why Europeans would want to, that have any money at all or any get up and go at all, would want to get the hell out of Europe, everywhere and anywhere in Europe. And where are they going to go? Well, Argentina and Uruguay are two of the prime candidates in the world. There are others, so that it seems to me that there are still going to be many hundreds or thousands of Europeans and Canadians and Americans coming to Uruguay in the future. So it's kind of like the wind is at your back if you want to do real estate in this country
Hmm.
or that
And
country,
I
still in the
and I
US.
do know that there's a ton of construction, new construction happening in Montevideo now, like a ton. Gentrification of certain neighborhoods happening, a lot of like mixed use buildings being built.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of activity, a lot.
Yeah. And if you go to Punta del Este, which is, what is it, an hour and a half drive or something like that from Montevideo towards Brazil, that there's more and more building and development along the ocean
Hmm.
moving towards Brazil, so that I don't see any reason why you shouldn't look to do a real estate deal in Uruguay. It's an
Yeah,
okay country.
yeah. It all comes down to the deal specifically. Just got
Yeah,
to find the right deal, and that's the challenge with all real estate investments.
yeah.
Okay. Says, I'm curious to know if Doug considers his free ride policy to be hard and fast for himself. I invested tiny amounts in many companies, and sometimes it seems silly to sell just that much because she's just putting a little bit in each company. Uh, like that amount has appreciated, but it really isn't that much money because she might put 5 grand or so into a particular stock, for instance, and it will probably keep going up, is what she tells herself. On the other hand, it seems like it wouldn't be a bad idea to sell hard and fast, set a hard, fast, and fast rule for myself. So this is the Casey free ride principle. The idea is once the stock doubles, you sell half, take your initial capital off the table, and then you get the free ride. You get all the upside with eliminating your downside. So is that a rule you follow? It's the Casey free ride, but is it
Yeah.
something you do all the time?
Well, I believe it was Warren Buffett that one of his very many famous dictums are the first rule of investing is don't lose money. The second rule is just follow the first rule. And when you're dealing with stocks that are as volatile and in many ways unpredictable as these mining companies, yeah, it's a very good policy. On the other hand, right now we're in the very early stages still of a bull market, and you don't want to sell too soon as long as the trend is your friend. The trend is still moving these things up from a very low level. That's point number one. Point number two is if you sell half and keep the rest and then reinvest it into another deal, okay, is that second deal you're putting your money in really better than the one that you're taking your money out of? Well, with 2,000 deals around, it's often hard to say. And and you can get yourself into a problem in that you wind up with too many stocks. I
Yeah.
mean, you got to be diversified among these crappy little gold stocks. That's important. You can't put all your eggs in one basket, but you wind up with 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 or more of them. You forget why you bought them. You forget anything about the company. You don't monitor it. And that's a really bad mistake. So I'm not answering the question. I'm just telling you the pitfalls of doing it one way or the other way. And what do? I try to be disciplined and mostly, not entirely by any means, but mostly I just buy private placements. And companies don't like to hear me say this, but unless I really like the company, uh, I'll sell the shares and keep the warrants as a lottery ticket. And that kind of solves the problems. But
Mm.
if you're a small investor, you can't do that. So that doesn't answer the question for most people, I guess. So it's a
No.
problem. Well, what do you
Yeah.
think, Matt? I
Well,
mean,
this question, especially even forget about the individual picks, and we've got several of these small stocks that have gone up a lot. I mean, you know, 5x or more. But even the index, the GDXJ, the junior mining index, is up 120% year to date. The GDX, the large gold miners index is up also 120% year to date. So even that, if you were just investing pretty diversified across the spectrum, do you apply the Casey free ride with that? I haven't. I own both of those, and I'm just because I haven't done it. I'm still letting it ride. I think it's going to go a lot higher, but I could be wrong.
I agree. I think that it could go a lot higher because in the past, these stocks over the last 50 years during bull markets, of which there have been like five, um, they go 10 to 1, small stocks as a group. I mean, it's actually unbelievable what happens to these prices, which it's inexplicable and stupid, but it happens. So, but I'll tell you what I'm tending to do now. You know what's as cheap as mining stocks? It's oil and gas stocks. They're really cheap, equally cheap, actually. Any number of ways we can crunch the numbers. And quality oil and gas stocks are yielding anywhere from 5% to over 10%. And if we're looking at coal stocks, which are really out of favor, up to 15% sometimes. So maybe if you want to get something really cheap that everybody hates, it gives you a current yield, which is kind of like an outward sign of inward grace that can actually pay a dividend. They're making money, which these gold stocks don't usually do. Maybe if you feel like you want to sell part of a gold stock, maybe you should buy an oil and gas or coal stock. And I'd say uranium, but they generally don't have yields either. They're closer to a mining stock than a oil and gas stock, although they're an energy stock. So
Hmm. So you don't always follow it, but it is a good idea to do it, especially when something rushes up really fast, like we recommended MP Materials to our subscribers before the US announced that they were making an investment in it, and that stock essentially doubled overnight. With that one, I did sell half because it was like, I mean, I didn't. What was I expecting to happen with that stock? Basically, that it doubled. It was so quick, it made sense to take the money off the table to me.
yeah, no, I I agree. But it's a problem. All you can do is keep thinking about it, but don't think about it too hard because you can become like a deer in the headlights, which is another problem. I mean, it's one problem after another that you got to confront.
Yeah, I mean, the hard thing is that what you do with the money has to be better than what you already own. Like that's the thing.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And are you sure it's better? Maybe it's just different, but it's actually worse. So
right, exactly. Yeah, these are champagne problems, they
I
say,
know,
Yeah.
I know. I
What do you
wish.
do when the stock doubles? Oh no.
Oh, yeah, this is a real problem. I mean, yeah, this is not a third world person's problem, for instance.
No, it's definitely not. So, okay, next question is, given the heinous actions of the U.S. regime, does Doug see differences in the acceptance of Americans in the rest of the world, and has it changed? Uh, so which spots are most gringo friendly?
Yeah, when I was living in Europe, when I was in college, and it was part of it was when the Vietnam War was really building momentum, and there were, riots about it and everything like that. You know, several of my friends, when asked, would not say they were Americans. They say they were Canadians. You can't tell the difference between a Canadian and an American, obviously. And everybody, Canadians are innocuous and Americans have all these reputational problems. And that was a long time ago.
Hmm.
It's more serious now. So, how much do people hate Americans now, just on general principles? Well, look around you and ask your friends how much do they hate Russians just because they've been told the Russians are a bad guy. You gotta hate them for what? I don't know anything about Russia. Or you gotta hate the Chinese. But people that go to China, aren't you afraid of being arrested? The answer is no. Uh, and China's just fine to visit and mellow and crime-free and becoming more and more honest and less corrupt all the time, and everything works. And but you're supposed to hate the Chinese because I don't know. There's a bunch of reasons that they come up with. So it is a problem because other people feel that, the Americans, it's like we all work for the US government or we all
Right.
work for the CIA or something. So yeah, I think it's a problem. Uh, but what do you do? I mean,
You really
people
got to
are,
go to the place and see how they treat you to find out.
yeah. Yeah, and they got to get to know you individually as a person to see that you really don't grow horns. But let's admit it, the average person is easily propagandized, and the average IQ, uh,
It's,
well, if it's
it's
100,
disappointing.
disappointing. Yeah, I'm forced to think that it's not anywhere near 100. It's way below that when you look
Yeah.
at how people react stupidly. And of course, stupidity is different from intelligence too. So you got to contend with that. Yeah, you just got to go there and get to know people. Okay.
Yeah, but if the U.S., I remember a distinct change in the way I was treated internationally, though, when Obama won, because internationally he was so popular.
Hmm.
And I mean, everyone was so excited, and and versus during the Bush years, there was a little more
Yeah,
tension, people were way
yeah,
more
of
critical. And so
course.
it does have an effect on you. I mean, the way that you're perceived based upon how the government is behaving.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. They look at the president, they figure he won an election, they figure the chances are at least 50-50 that you voted for this asshole. And
Right,
therefore you're a bad person,
right.
probably.
And when in Obama's case, he was a terrible president, and I didn't vote for him, but I got the benefit of he had this
Yeah,
aura internationally, at least at first, that was really great for Americans.
yeah. I don't think abroad Trump has much of an aura or a halo. Actually, almost nowhere.
Maybe in Argentina with promising to bail him out.
Yeah, which is really stupid. Stupid on Malay's part. Stupid on it's I just hope it doesn't end badly for Malay. Uh, anyway, I'm I'm really just look, I'm very happy about many of the things he's done. I'm just unhappy about the fact that he's identified as an ANCAP because he's sure not acting like it lately.
Agreed. Okay, what are Doug's thoughts on prohibition of usury in Islam and the current demonization in the West of the Mohammedan?
Huh. Well, it's not a current demonization. I mean, the followers of Muhammad and the Christians have been at each other's throats for about 1,300 years or so. So this is nothing new. And I think most people that have listened to us are well aware of the fact that I'm not a religious person in any way, number one, but definitely not of the Abrahamic religions, which is to say Christianity, which is, you know, ha, you know, look, Jesus said some nice, mellow, intelligent things. So I'm all for
Yeah,
that. That's great. But that doesn't mean that, the Christians are pretty dangerous. It's just that right now that they're not rabid the way they have in many, many times in history in the past. And the Jews, I mean, it's the same thing. They believe these things from the Torah, and they're not very nice things. And the Muslims, it's the same deal. There's all kinds of really, really evil and destructive things in the. I mean, you can say it's a crazy, a crazy cult for deranged people. Well, you can say that about people that are nutty Christians and nutty Jews too. All these Abrahamic religions I'm not a fan of, but I'm not a fan of religions in general. So, but those least of all, quite frankly. So I don't know. Wait a minute. Have I answered the question here?
you haven't. You haven't. So what do you think about the idea that usury is prohibited in Islam?
I think it's one of the reasons why Mohammedanism has not advanced, except for the fact that a lot of these countries find themselves sitting on a giant pool of oil. You know, what's our oil doing under their sand? But they got lucky and it's under their sand. So, no, it's one of the reasons that it doesn't go anywhere as fast as it should. As they've got, as I recall, there are about 23 ways that Quranic scholars have found that you can rationalize interest rates. Well, you have to. In the real world, it's the time value of money and all this type of thing. Well, Allah says it's a bad thing. So you got to find a way to get around the ridiculous prohibition. But this is friction. This is throwing sand in the gears, like most of
Hmm.
these religious prohibitions. So uh, I don't know. Hopefully, all the current Islamics will discard it and become. They'll read. Whose book am I talking about reading? Well, they'll read Ayn Rand's books and become rational. Well, ain't gonna happen, but
No, but it does seem like lately there's a rise in, especially in the back of the Charlie Kirk thing, a rise in the evangelical Christian side of things.
yeah, it's always amazed me about evangelical Christians. It's always God and guns. Well, wait a minute. I thought Jesus was God and he was usually a pretty peaceful guy. So what's this have to do with guns and attacking the enemy? And it's a bit of a contradiction that, well, they rationalize these things just the way all these religions rationalize things. So, you know, I just stay away from religious fanatics. That's a good general rule. Doesn't matter what religion they're fanatic about.
I think people are fanatic about anything in particular, anything are generally more
Yeah,
dangerous.
yeah. I got a good rule. You want some rules of religion? You don't have to listen to the Ten Commandments. A lot of problems with the Ten Commandments. How about do all that you say you're going to do and don't impinge upon other people or their properties? So that's a that's a good rule. If you need a rule, that's a good rule.
Pretty simple, easy to
Yeah,
remember.
can remember it. I can't remember all the 10. Honestly, I'm not sure I can, if I had to reel them all off. I, can you reel off the Ten Commandments?
No, just the obvious ones. No, I can't.
No. Yeah. So it's like primitive people. When you ask them to count, they say two, three, many. So you can't ask people to remember more than three things.
Right. Okay. So next question is, does Doug think that lunar exploration is a reasonable investment over the next 10 years? He says there are some public companies that exist for it already. I'm not aware of those, but
No, me neither. Anyway, wrong word, investment. It's not an investment. It's a speculation. In fact, maybe it's not even a speculation. It's just a gamble, a hope,
mm,
a dream. So that's not a place where you should put money unless you want to gamble. It's not even a speculation, I don't think.
mm.
So it's several orders of magnitude down from an investment.
Investment. Yeah,
Uh,
that's for sure.
Answer to the question is I think you're premature, so I don't think I would recommend you do it. Yeah, I don't know. Whatever company you're being promoted on, maybe it's going to go 100 to 1 in this crazy bull market, and I'll look like an idiot for having said that. Okay, that happens.
Just means the gamble paid off as far as I'm concerned.
That's right. You can go to Vegas and put it on 23 black or is 23 red? I don't know. I don't play roulette.
All right.
And
So
yeah, and you say, if I say, don't do it, and it comes up 23, okay, so you won 35 times your money. Well, okay.
congratulations.
Yeah.
All right. Has Doug thought any more about where a Rick's Cafe Americana or American could work? And he says Venezuela or Nicaragua, if they have a change in power, would they be good places?
Well, you can go to Nicaragua right now and open up a place like that. I don't know how many bureaucratic hoops you'd have to jump through to open up a place. But I mean, years ago with Bill Bonner and a few other guys, uh, we we financed Rancho Santana on the coast, the west coast of Nicaragua, and it's been a success. Well, not a
It's
financial success, but
beautiful property. I mean, the
beautiful
property is a
property.
success for sure.
Yeah, everybody's happy to be there, and doesn't matter that what's that idiot's name that runs the country? What's his name?
I can't remember.
Yeah, he's destructive and crazy and stupid, but he's not
But he's
aggressive.
been in power for a long time, right?
Yeah, yeah, the guy that used to buy the $100 sunglasses when that was a lot of money, and Nicaragua was super dirt poor during the Civil War. What the hell's that guy's name? I mean, it's a typical
Ortega. Well, it's
Ortega.
Ortega,
Yeah, Dave. What's his first name? David?
Danielle.
Danielle. So yeah, you can do it down there, and Nicaragua doesn't have a stock market or any kind of a. So yeah, I can see that you can go to Managua or maybe some secondary city, which there aren't many, and open up a Rick's Cafe, and it would be a place where people would hang out. You know, all these countries that are backward, there's when tourists or rich foreign businessmen come to it, they like to go to some place where they can get a good drink. Okay, that's nice. And get a few American items on the menu. Well done. A few local specialties. Well done. And, you know, the key to a place like this is to send out a casting call to good-looking women that want to meet rich foreigners. And the rich foreigners want to meet the good-looking local women. And you charge a lot of money for the drinks. And since you're getting upmarket foreign businessmen, if you know how to manage a place, you'll find out about the deals and you put the deals together. So it's still a good idea. Not as good a deal, an idea as it was when the Soviet Empire collapsed. Was a fantastic deal to do then. But yeah, you can still do it in Nicaragua. Maybe you can still do it in Caracas because I understand, I don't know if it's true, that the crime level in Caracas has collapsed because all the Venezuelan criminals have gone to the US where the pickings are easier, much easier, you
Yeah.
know. So,
And if they do take out Maduro, which it looks like they're aiming to,
yeah.
that might actually cause a flood of investment and investors to come in there. And I mean, that could create and under those circumstances, that could create a really interesting opportunity
And
too,
there have got
right?
to, yeah, and there have got to be because of the how screwed up everything is in Venezuela, but almost all the property is still privately owned, quite frankly. It's not been nationalized. There have got to be huge anomalies, price anomalies, where you can buy stuff for unbelievable cheap prices if you wait long enough and you find the guy that's got to get out of it, whatever. So I think that you could go to Caracas right now and open up a Rick's Cafe,
Hmm.
and you know, and probably be helpful to find a general that you can get along with and use him as a roof, keep the other criminal generals away. You have to give him a certain percentage of the profits, but that's a tax. Can't get away from these things. So listen, that's not a bad idea. Going to going to do that in
In
it might be
Caracas.
a super idea to do that in either
Yeah.
one of those places, especially Caracas.
Yeah, because I just think that, there probably will be a lot of new investment dollars that come in,
Yeah,
if into Venezuela in particular. Yeah.
yeah. So give it a try. I'd love to hear about it if you investigate that. It's,
Okay, so just two more questions here. It says, would it make sense to turn the preparation into a movie too?
I don't know. Would it be a documentary or would you make it a story?
Well, the easier one is certainly a documentary. Um, yeah, I don't know. Maybe, maybe you could do it. I mean, I mean, the truth of the matter is I've seen it, and what we're talking about, in case you don't know, is The Preparation, which is a book that Doug, I, and my son Maxim wrote, which we came out last month. And I should hold up a copy of it. You can get it on Amazon. You
Yeah,
will like it, I guarantee.
I got a copy too.
Good. All right. Yeah, you got one even positioned behind you over your shoulder. Very smart
Right.
positioning. Yeah, I got to do that.
Yeah, everybody
But
listening to this podcast should buy the book. They really should.
I haven't heard a single disgruntled buyer at all. I've only heard glowing. I mean, it's shocking to me actually the feedback that we've gotten, how positive it's been. I didn't expect that, and so it's
No.
been very gratifying. So yeah, get a
And
copy of it.
maybe somebody out there would like to get into the documentary or movie business, and we'd love to work with you on this. I don't know how to do that personally, but
Yeah, yeah. If somebody's got some ideas, reach out. Okay, so last question was, oh, it's kind of relating. Actually, sorry, it's not even a separate question. He says, I always thought a movie about Doug's old side hustle would be fun. Going to third world countries, trying to convince leaders to adopt his ideas. That would be a great movie. Or an adaptation of your novels for streaming, he says.
yeah, I'm all for it because the only way that novels make the big time is if a movie's made out of them. People don't read so much, they watch movies. Understandable. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, we need a forward-looking movie producer, but I don't know.
Hmm. Well, if you've got the skills and the interest, let us know. Um,
Yeah, trying to get the conventional Hollywood, probably not.
no, it's not worthwhile. Plus, it's like it's all built on just the way that content is created is, done with a price tag, out of the gate that is so massive. And it doesn't have to be like that. There's technology and the cost really of doing it now. It needs one really creative person to drive it, and then whatever other resources they need around them. Like, I don't think you'd require all that you once did.
Yeah, especially with AI for all its faults. I mean, you don't need to pay actors millions of dollars or whatever. You can create all this stuff that's looks real, but it's not, and just have a few real people inserted in the this ought
Yeah,
to change everything. So hopefully
yeah,
there's somebody listening to this that would like to get into the movie business, which would be wonderful, and truly overturn the Hollywood monopoly.
yeah, that'd be great. Um, yeah, just one more question. Does Doug envision the potential for internal chaos engulfing Brazil in the years ahead, perhaps concluding with a breakup of the country? And how would such a scenario affect its neighboring countries? Namely, I'd be interested in how it affect Uruguay. Um, because they decided to put the former president in prison for basically the rest of his life, right? He was convicted of sedition charges or something along those
Something
lines.
like that. Whatever.
Yeah. So, yeah, what do you think? Do you envision internal chaos in Brazil in the years ahead?
Well, since I think depends on your time frame, of course. Um, and I think the US sometime is going to break up into two or more countries, and certainly Brazil, because there's even more cultural differences, maybe not philosophical differences, which is the problem in the US, but the difference, Brazil is not a cohesive, coherent country. I mean, uh, it's really several very different countries that are all under one political umbrella that all want different things from the government and they're at odds with each other. So it should break up. It's the only Portuguese speaking country in South America, but that doesn't mean there can't be three or four new
Hmm.
Portuguese speaking countries. So, yeah, but the question is when. And I kind of think that they're going to pardon on some basis Bolsonaro because they need less antagonism, not more. So that's what you do. You convict them, bad guy, convicted. Okay, we'll let him go because we're nice guys. I think that's
Just
what's going to happen with them, frankly.
destroy him as political opposition, like
Yeah.
neuter him, but not necessarily make it worse by sending him to prison for the rest of his life.
No, it doesn't serve any useful purpose to keep him in prison except to really antagonize and help the turn him into a martyr and help the opposition crystallize. So
Hmm,
yeah, I think that's what's going to happen.
that makes sense. Okay. All right. Well, that's all the questions I had for today, Doug. So I guess we'll wrap it up there and heading into weekend, and we'll be back next Wednesday with the next episode.
Yeah, and hopefully the world won't have changed too much. That Trump won't get some kind of a really goofy idea and decide to turn it into an executive order tomorrow morning. He's been doing a lot of that lately with his tariffs and God knows what.
And I believe this meeting of these 800 generals, basically all the generals the U.S. has and admirals in outside of Washington. I think that happens on Tuesday, so we'll know what that's actually about by then, hopefully.
Yeah, I think 800 is probably too many. I think we've got what, 44 four-star generals?
Yeah, for what?
For what? Who are all these people? I mean, that's most of them should be fired. And hopefully, it's a house cleaning, just on general principles. Well, I guess it's in the you'll find out department, which is so many things in the
Right,
world.
and hopefully we'll know by Wednesday. We can talk about it then.
Yeah, we don't have to wait 100 years to find out what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Although, always got to remember what Joanne Lai said when Charles de Gaulle asked him, "So what do you think about the French Revolution?" And Joe said, "It's too early to tell."
Yeah, it takes more than 100 years to find out.
Yeah.
All right, okay. We'll leave it there, Doug. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Matt.